I gazed the monstrous creature before me, my mind struggling to comprehend the horrors that it represented. The moon cast an eerie glow, revealing the twisted confluence of flesh and fur, the elongated snout and the gleaming predatory eyes. It was a sight that defied reason, a grotesque fusion of man and beast. It growled again, and then turned and bolted into the night.
And we're live.
No, actually we're not.
Oh, dang.
But
And she was talking about us like Ouija. She goes, oh, like a Ouija board? And I was like, I mean, that's the nickname for a Norwegian forest cat. So.
Those are crazy. Those are like, they're massive.
Well, that's what Tap Out was half.
Oh, really?
And so that's why.
I've never seen a solid colored one.
We talked about.
there's some, yeah.
We talked about getting one because they're so social.
Oh, I didn't know they were so edgy. They're massive.
They're big.
Well, they're big like
Tap Out.
they're
Look
like
at Tap Out, 22 pounds. I mean,
that's like Maine Coons are big too.
it's like two cats.
But they say that that's probably why he was the way he was, because that's how Norwegian forest cats are. But they are not cheap.
No,
And it's not. And
you can get free cats all day long.
That's why I have
It's
such
like
a heart.
1,500.
I have such a heart for adoption of animals that it's like hard for me.
She wants them all. She thinks they're freaking Pokemons.
Gotta get them all. Gotta catch
She
'em.
does, I swear to God.
That's not a fair statement. I would love to have them all, but I'm not crazy about it. We've been a singular pet home for 2 months, but before then Jixer died, November of 21, and I haven't got another dog.
Okay. That's true.
Give me credit where it's due, dear. Now, if I had a lot of money and a big farm, all of them. Bring them all to me.
Probably would.
Crazy cat lady.
Well, dogs
telling
too.
you.
Dogs too.
Yeah. Yes, if somebody didn't put her in check, she would be the crazy cat lady.
No, I can rein it in.
You get to pee?
No,
Are you cold?
no.
I was just curious because you're doing the bouncy thing.
Just laffy tappy.
Lava tepe.
Okay.
I'm good, thanks. I appreciate your
Water.
concern.
Water.
You gonna wash it later?
I'm a water. Okay, you guys ready?
Uh-huh.
Okay, and we're live with Paranormal Dash Spirits. This is the place we come to get our booze on. We talk about the booze, those things that go bump in the night. And I get to do it with all my booze. I'm Mike Black. It's my wife, Alyssa Black.
Hello.
My best friend, John Burkett.
Hola.
Oh.
And we've all had paranormal experiences. And we all like to drink.
Responsibly.
Buenos noches.
In moderation.
In moderation. Tonight we got a great story for you guys. We go all the way back in history to the beginnings of where the werewolves started. And I mean all the way back. But before we do that, I want to tell you about all the places you can come find us on the web, the interwebs. We've got our website, which is paranormal-spirits.com. We've got a Facebook group, Booze with Benefits. We've got a YouTube channel, which is
Paranormal.
3B Paranormal Spirits. Instagram is paranormal_dash, spelled out, _spirits. TikTok is the same, and Twitter's the same.
As what? The underscore?
Paranormal _
The word dash.
the word dash, the dash don't be silent, _ spirits. And the way we start off every show, and we're going to start off this one too, is with a drink of the night. And I always give the honors to John. John, tonight, what are we drinking? Tell us all about
This looks like tequila.
it. By God.
Mijenta Tequila Blanco. So, it's an unaged tequila from Jalisco. This is distilled by master distiller, or as they say in Mexico, tequilera, Ana Maria Romero. So is a female that is responsible for this. And We've heard this is really good.
We have heard. I'm pretty excited about it. Was
I
it?
am too. It's very cool.
Was it rated an S by the one that we watched?
No.
A? It was
I
an
think
A, wasn't it?
He gave it an A. Yeah, which is almost as good as it gets, but okay.
Well, that smells good.
Oh, that smells amazing. Oh, I like that.
Smells like roasted agave.
Mm-hmm. Smells delicious.
Okay. So that's all I'm getting from this. I'm getting
not getting any.
I'm getting agave. I'm not getting anything else.
No pepper, no ethanol.
All right. Cilantro.
Cilantro, slancha, salud.
Salud.
That is really good. Holy crap. That's silky.
It's bright. It's got a little bit of that kick.
That's very smooth.
That is extremely smooth
It is.
tequila.
Especially if you're a Blanco. What's the Reposado? What is the price point on this, dear?
Did I buy it with John's money or my money?
John, what is the price point on this?
According to the website,
That was close.
$48.99.
According to our local liquor store,
It's less than 50. Less than 50.
It was less than 50. It was like between $45 and $49, somewhere in there.
Which this tastes way more expensive than that.
It does taste more expensive than that.
That is amazing. I just get agave. I'm not getting a lot of black pepper. I just get like a very, very roasted agave forward.
I get a little bit of black pepper, but it's on the backside.
back here.
Yeah, and it's not overwhelming.
But it is silky smooth.
the website says aromatic, elegant, and complex with unfolding notes of cantaloupe,
No,
honey,
maybe.
and cinnamon. An outstanding, generous, and round finish.
Makes it sound like it's a churro.
I know. A Melanie churro.
I don't get cantaloupe and I don't get cinnamon.
Oh.
There might be a little bit of honey flavor there.
Cantaloupe.
Yeah,
What kind of cantaloupe are they drinking or eating or drinking?
I don't know.
it's not vanilla, but it's something.
That's
I
the
don't know.
cantaloupe.
It's
No,
that's all natural. There's no additive free. This is one of those certified additive free. There's no artificial flavorings, no nothing. It's not even been filtered, apparently, according to the website.
Oh wow,
And
it's really good.
the legs on this,
I know.
is very, like, the mouthfeel is velvety and thick and
I was
oily.
looking at God. That thing.
What is the reposado? I
full of
wonder. Like, I
oils.
wonder how smooth that beast is.
Oh, I'm sure it is, but
You should probably try the $200 bottle of Añejo.
Or I can just do the $70 bottle of Repo and be happy.
yeah, those prices jump on this one. It goes like 45 to
70 for the Repo.
70 something for-
And then 200 for the Añejo.
200.
Jeez,
Hello.
that's expensive.
I don't see any I mean,
That's really good.
that's the best
I
Blanco
mean, that's
I've
obviously
ever
a Blanco, because you get the brightness from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
there's no wood
barrel
flavor
in that
in
at
there at
all.
all.
So
That just toppled Don Julio Blanco off the top of the Blanco chain.
yeah, absolutely, I agree.
And for those that like to support women in different male-dominated fields, this one
That's right.
is made by a woman.
And what was her name?
Ana Maria Romero.
Ana Maria Romero.
Romero.
And this is not the only tequila in her line of, like, out of her
Oh, it's
distillery. If I remember correctly,
is this like the
there
top
was
one or?
that I don't know. The only reason I know that's because that video we watched,
does,
there was
yeah.
a few different ones.
Mhm.
You know, like some of the distilleries have different
Right.
lines of things,
Yeah.
like same juices and stuff. I'd have to watch it again to be able to tell you. I just know that. So, their slogan is Por la tierra, which is for the land, Por la gente, which is for the people, and Por la vida, which is for life. So,
It also says
But not pour on my wallet because it wasn't that expensive.
It says that I'm going to butcher these Aztec words. Sinzon Totochten is a folk story that tells the tale of Mayahuel, the goddess of the agave plant, and Patecatl, the god of pulque. Pulque is like a liquor that's made out of something. I don't think you can even get that here. You can only drink that down there. Usually like a homemade thing. It's a milky, like moonshiny kind of thing. Whose their beautiful union produced 400 mischievous rabbits with a taste for good company, good liquor, and a good time. Our tequila, like all good things in life, is meant to be shared. Enjoy responsibly with friends, food, and music.
Yeah, it's that beats out Don Julio for sure for the top Blanco.
That is a sipper of Blanco too. That's not like a.
I know. You're not going to have to shoot that at all.
It's not like the ones I usually get.
But you got to kiss a lot of frogs to get a prince or a princess.
Yeah.
Whatever your choice is.
Now I would say, price-wise, you could some places sometimes you can find the Don Julio for I know at Costco liquor. If you live in a place that has a Costco liquors, it's like $35, and it's pretty solid.
Yeah,
but it's not quite this.
I might be wrong. That might be her only brand. I want to say
No,
he
I
said
think
there was
there's
something else.
I believe there is something else that she also does.
I was looking, and right now that's the only thing that comes up. Oversees the entire tequila process for Mijenta from start to finish. So.
Yeah, I'll throw up some pictures from her website and put them on the.
Yeah, there's a picture of her on here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty.
I think it's cool that there's, like you say, in a typically male-dominated
field.
And in a, let's be honest, a patriarchal culture. To have a female come out and produce something like this. This is excellent tequila.
It really is. Definitely recommend it.
Not. She's a looker too.
Well, that's good to know.
Bad looking lady.
I would hate for her to be homely or something and making tequila that good.
Homely.
Glad she's a sharp looking woman. Oh, goodness. Okay, you guys ready to talk about the BOOS?
Yep.
All righty. Wet my whistle here with my Monster Energy drink.
Oh boy, does that not like just jack with the flavor of this? Like, doesn't it?
Not at all.
Screw up your palate? That cough syrup stuff?
No, I have an iron palate.
An iron palate.
Oof.
Okay. The desolate road stretched out before me, its asphalt cracked and weathered by years of neglect. The country air was heavy with an unsettling stillness, broken only by the distant rustle of leaves in the wind. I quickened my pace, an unexplained unease settling in the pit of my stomach. As I walked, the sensation of being watched intensified. A prickling at the back of my neck that refused to be ignored. Glancing over my shoulder, I saw nothing but the empty road, flanked by overgrown fields and towering trees. The feeling persisted. An unseen presence looming just beyond my line of sight. I tried to dismiss it as mere paranoia, a trick of my imagination playing havoc on my senses. But deep down, a gnawing dread tugged at my every step, urging me to seek refuge, to escape whatever malevolence lurked in the shadows. My heart pounded in my chest, my breath coming in shallow gasps as I quickened my pace. Desperate to put distance between myself and the encroaching darkness. Yet, with each step, the presence seemed to draw nearer, its sinister intent palpable in the air. As I approached a dilapidated farmhouse, its windows boarded up and its facade crumbling, a single lamp reaching out through the cracks in the windows, a chill wind swept through the overgrown grass, carrying with it a mournful whisper that sent shivers down my spine. I glanced around, my eyes scanning the landscape for any sign of salvation. But then, a movement caught my eye. a figure half concealed by the gnarled branches of an ancient oak that stood on the far side of the barren field, all the crops plowed under to make way for the spring planting. 200 yards away, it stood motionless, its breath billowing out as big clouds of steam, a haunting silhouette against the dying light of the day. Dread washed over me like a tidal wave as I realized the truth. I was being stalked. Fear gripped me, its icy tendrils snaking through my veins. My mind screamed, "Run!" I broke into a run, my footsteps echoing through the deserted countryside, but the pursuer was relentless, closing the gap with supernatural speed. Panic consumed me as I struggled to comprehend the nature of the horror that pursued me. With each passing second, the malevolence grew stronger, its presence suffocating. I stumbled, my knees scraping against the rough gravel, but I refused to yield. Desperation fueled my resolve as I spun towards a lamp and light in the darkness, praying for sanctuary, for deliverance from the encroaching darkness. As I reached the porch of an old farmhouse, the door creaked open, revealing a mountain of a man shrouded in darkness. I stumbled inside, gasping for my breath, my eyes darting frantically to figure out that now stood before me the face etched with a lifetime of hardship. He looked at me with haunted eyes, understanding the terror that had driven me to seek refuge within. He raised an index finger to his lip. With a gravelly voice, he whispered a single word: "Quiet." The howl shot through me like ice water through my veins. I turned to look through tears at the thing that had paced at the edge of the tree line at the road, over 50 yards away, and I could hear the growling. "He won't come here. He knows I can hurt him." As he patted the rifle he held across his chest. I gazed at the monstrous creature before me, my mind struggling to comprehend the horrors that it represented. The moon cast an eerie glow, revealing the twisted confluence of flesh and fur, the elongated snout and the gleaming predatory eyes. It was a sight that defied reason, a grotesque fusion of man and beast. It growled again, and then turned and bolted into the night. So where do werewolf legends start? So basically, there's two types of werewolves. You have the shapeshifter. And the shapeshifters, they believe, legends have it, that they are born with this ability. And that is, except for the Navajo, which believe that it is a witch that can shapeshift at will.
Like Skinwalker.
Yeah, and we'll get more on that later. The true werewolf, according to most legends, is a human being that uncontrollably transforms into a wolf during a full moon.
This is aggravating.
Here, Puddin'.
I'm like I'm trying to be cool and quiet over here, and it's just twisting.
Okay, John. There you go. I knew you could get it. I had faith.
I had to hit it again. That's really.
I had to hit it again.
I had to hit that again.
Okay. So the original werewolf curse transformed a shapeshifter wolf into a werewolf, effectively taking away the ability to control the shift, but also taking away the ability to think as a human while in the wolf form. The broader term, and I practiced these before we start, therianthropy, refers to the fantastical or mythological ability of some humans to change into animals.
Wait, is it lycanthropy or like
Therianthropy?
Therianthropy.
Therianthropy refers to the fantastical or mythological ability of humans to change into animals. Therianthropes are said to change forms via shapeshifting. Therianthropy has long existed in mythology and seems to be depicted in ancient cave drawings, such as The Sorcerer, a pictograph executed at the Paleolithic cave drawings found in the Pyrenees at Les Trois Frères, France. Archaeological site. How was that? That wasn't bad, huh? Les Trois Frères. I can't do it.
Love your French.
Well, I can't do it as well as they can because they sound like they have a
we
mouthful
could say like
malt.
French watch brand names, and that's about it.
Les Trois Frères.
We can say Gégé le Cul, but
Yeah.
not Le Fart, whatever.
So anyway, it's those old caves and where they have all the paintings over in France, and I know we read about this in history class. So And it's unclear exactly where the werewolf legend originated. Now, some scholars believe that the werewolf made its debut in the Epic of Gilgamesh, believe it or not.
Oh,
Inky
wow.
Doo?
Gilgamesh.
Inky Doo?
No, not Inky Doo.
Inky don't.
And not Inky Don't, pardon me.
You can't say Inky Doo without saying Inky don't.
So in Gilgamesh, who was if you don't know, it's the mythic king of Uruk, best known as the hero of the Epic of Gilgamesh, which was written somewhere between 2150 and 1400 BC. And the great Babylonian poem that predates Homer's Iliad and Odyssey by 1500 years, and therefore stands as the oldest written literature in the world. Now, there is a part where Gilgamesh is in love with this woman, but he finds out that she turned her previous mate into a wolf because he jilted her. So that was the first mention
could have ended much worse for him. Maybe could have been turned into a slug or
it could have been a lot worse, but
frog.
So technically
Frog.
So technically he wasn't turned into a werewolf because you can't be turned into one. Like Dracula can change into a wolf, right? Or he can change into a bat or something like that, but he's not a werewolf. So technically he wasn't a werewolf, but he was cursed.
He would be a therianthrope.
Mm-hmm. So we're moving up into 5th century BC. Greek historian named Herodotus, who has been called the father of history, described in book 4 of the Histories, which is a group of books that he wrote. A nomadic group of people called the Nuri. The Nuri people were neighbors of the Scythians. The Scythian people inhabited a large territory around Ukraine and the southern border of Russia. And
they were known as Great Horsemen.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the Nurians were located on this border, and it's a large swath there. And they would transform into wolves for several days of the year. They would mix the flesh of animals and humans, consuming it and becoming werewolves. Now, as it would happen, archaeology has proven this out, that there were episodes of cannibalism in that area where you could see, gnawing
knife cuts and stuff on
gnawing on human bones and stuff like that. So there were cannibals there that did eat human flesh. So possibly, and that's where it came from. The werewolves also made another early appearance in Greek mythology, and that was the king Lycan or Lycaon.
There's your
Hence
lycanthropy.
Right. And he was the ruler of Arcadia. And what he did, this dude had like 50 sons, and he was extremely prideful. And he was not a good king to his people. And so anyway, and the stories got all the way up to Zeus. Zeus heard about what a horrible person he was. And not only, so, in mythology, anytime that you have somebody that's prideful, i.e. Satan, it doesn't end well for him. It never does. Now, if you're prideful and disrespectful of the gods, that's doubly bad, because you're really going to get it put on you then. So Zeus comes down to Arcadia, and he visits with all the people. Doesn't take long before they figure out, hey, this is Zeus walking around.
Arcadia or Acadia?
Arcadia.
Arcadia. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Arcadia.
A lot of games there.
No, that's an arcade. So Zeus comes out, and he's hanging out in Arcadia. Everybody realizes this is Zeus because I imagine he's big and tall.
Liam Neeson, right?
And he's
Neeson.
And he's walking around with lightning bolts in his hand. So that was probably the giveaway.
Or Russell Crowe in the new Thor movie.
Right.
Liam Neeson in the previous
films. Anyway, the people are fawning over him, and oh my God, it's Zeus, it's Zeus. So this gets back to King Lycaon, and this pissed him off because Zeus has come down here. And so he decides he's going to put Zeus to a test. So this dude has so many sons, and this is horrible. so many sons that he decides to kill one of them, chop him up, and put him in the feast that he's invited Zeus to. So Zeus shows up for this feast, and Zeus, being all-knowing and all-wise and all that, realizes what Lycaon has done. Now, this royally pisses off Zeus. So Zeus, because he realized what he had done, killed every one of Lycaon's sons, brought back the son that had been killed, and then changes Lycaon, and he curses him to be a werewolf or a wolf-like beast. So the guy loses his mind, Lycaon does. He's fled into the wilderness, where he suddenly found himself getting noticeably more hairy. As a reflection of his horrific nature. Now, not only this guy is prideful, but he also he killed one of his, and he's disrespectful to the gods. But now he's killed his own son, and so this is like the worst, human you could imagine. So the poet Ovid describes what happened to Lycaon. Said, when he had come to the deserted reaches of the countryside, he howled and tried in vain to speak. As a result of his own nature, his appearance took on a kind of madness, and he exercised against the flocks the lust for slaughter to which he had become accustomed. He began to take pleasure in blood. His clothes became fur. His arms turned into legs. He became a wolf, but he kept some of the aspects of his former self. There was still the same grayness and the same furriness about his face, and the same eyes shone in his head. He had the same appearance of fierceness. Thus, Lycaon becomes a werewolf. And from King Lycaon, we get the word
lycanthrope.
Lycanthrope and lycanthropy and so forth. Lycanthropy, according to Merriam-Webster, is a noun. It can be a delusion that one has become a wolf, or two, the assumption of a form and characteristics of a wolf held to be possible by witchcraft or magic. The word lycanthropy comes from the two Greek words lykos, meaning wolf, and anthropos, meaning human being. So we have, and this is one of the things that we've talked about werewolves before on a previous episode of
Bray Road Beast.
Bray Road Beast, and you can look it up on YouTube or on here.
I think it's the first one.
It was the first one. This is a myth or belief, legend that basically every culture in the world has their story of therianthropes or lycanthropes, werewolves. And if they didn't have wolves, they have some other beast that they would change into. There's been tigers and foxes. China has werewolf. Basically, it's the same thing as a werewolf, but it's a fox instead. Yeah. Crocodiles in like Africa, where people could change into crocs. The jaguar men in Africa.
There's an Egyptian god that's the head of a crocodile and a body of a man.
Right.
Can't remember.
I don't remember that one. I know Anubis, who had the head of a jackal. And
we've heard some jackals outside.
Yeah, I don't think that was jackals. Probably coyotes. But so, I mean, it transcends all cultures, and that's what is amazing to me. Usually, anything that transcends all cultures, there's usually like this much truth to it, but we don't know what the truth is.
Well, you talked about the cave painting, so that is, I don't remember how old that. I mean, that's tens of thousands of years old.
Yeah, all the way back then, So it's been throughout history.
It's interesting that the people Nuri. Is that what you said?
Uri.
So where ancient Scythia was, that would be very close to to Romania.
Yep.
Which are the Thracians, by the way, or that's Bulgaria. But anyway, but where the area you're describing in Eastern Europe is kind of where like our Western
European werewolves
comes from,
right.
is Eastern Europe. And it's interesting it goes back that far.
Yeah. So in
Greece
another,
technically is Eastern Europe, southeastern Europe, and Arcadia is the center of the Peloponnesian Peninsula there. So
yeah,
interesting. It's all kind of the same little
yeah.
area
So
geographically.
werewolves also emerged in Nordic folklore.
Yep.
So I was reading the saga of the Volsungs. Do you know this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The saga of the Volsungs tell the story of a father and a son who discovered these wolf pelts, and the pelts had the power to turn them into wolves for 10 days. They donned the pelts, transformed into wolves, and went on a killing rampage in the forest. The rampage ended when the father attacked the son. And I can't remember. I have read deeper into this. I just took a little snippet right here. But something about the father told the son, don't do a certain thing. And the son disobeyed him. And that's what caused them to getting the fight. Do you remember?
I do not remember.
You're
I remember
usually-
reading this,
You're usually my history
You're
guru.
Nordic.
So anyway, moving on. I don't want to belabor that. But anyway, the father and son get into a fight. The father grabs the son by the throat, causing a lethal wound. The son's bleeding to death. And he only survives because a kind raven, which was Odin's
Odin's
raven,
Hugin and Mugen, his
yeah,
two ravens.
and gave the father a leaf with healing powers, and he placed it on the neck and kept the son from dying.
I'm a Viking Nordic nerd, as you can see. I'm wearing.
That's why I was surprised.
I'm wearing a Mjolnir and a cross, just in case.
Just in case,
Just in case.
Well, you never know.
There's also Fenrir.
I'm surprised that you don't have.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you don't have the. Have anything else that you're wearing like that? You probably got. Do you have a mojo bag?
Mm-mm.
No, I've always got my mojo bag. So let's talk
My
about some.
mojo's always rising.
Let's talk about some infamous werewolves. Many so-called werewolves from centuries ago were in fact serial killers, and France had its share. In 1521, Frenchman Pierre Bergoux and Michel Verdun allegedly swore allegiance to the devil and claimed to have an ointment that turned them into wolves. And after confessing to brutally murdering several children, they were both burned to death at the stake.
I think they were just serial killers.
Yeah, they were probably just serial killers, but they claimed to be werewolves.
Eh.
Burning was thought to be one of the few ways to kill a werewolf. And then you had Gilles Garnier.
Gilles Garnier. This one I know about.
Okay, Gilles Garnier, known as the Werewolf of Dole, was another 16th century Frenchman whose claim to fame was also an ointment with wolf morphing abilities.
What the hell's going on in France?
I don't know, dude. According to the legend, as a wolf, he viciously killed children and ate them. He too was burned to death at the stake for his monstrous crimes. And where Bergoux and Verdun or Garnier were mentally ill and acted under the influence of a hallucinogenic substance, or were simply cold-blooded killers.
There's also a French nobleman who was a notorious child murderer as well. I don't think he claimed any kind of werewolf thing, but he was caught. But Frenchmen back then were what they were doing, man.
I don't know. But anyway, when they caught him, they said, well, they have to be werewolves to commit such heinous crimes, because only some horrific beast like a werewolf could commit these crimes like that. And so then we go into Germany, and we have the Bedburg werewolf, which I know you know this one. Peter Stubb or Stube. I guess it would be Stube.
Does it have little dots above it?
Yeah, no little dots.
No
but
so it's Stube.
I think it's Stube. Peter Stube, a wealthy 15th century farmer in Bedburg, Germany, may be the most notorious werewolf of all. According to the folklore, he turned into a wolf-like creature at night and devoured many citizens of Bedburg. Peter was eventually blamed for the gruesome killings after being cornered by hunters who claimed they saw him shapeshift from a wolf to a human form. He experienced a grisly execution after confessing under torture, of course, to savagely killing animals, men, women, and children, and eating their remains. He also declared he owned an enchanted belt that gave him the power to transform into a wolf at will. Not surprisingly, the belt was never found. Now, Peter's one that there's some controversy around because they believed he may not have been a killer, but just the victim of a witch hunt or a werewolf hunt. Yeah, as the case may be.
Well, when was this? What year? In Germany?
I didn't write the dates down.
There was a lot of actual witch hunts going on in the 17th century in Germany during the 30 Years' War, especially. That's when you're the peak of this nonsense of burning people at the stake, and that was all going on during that time period throughout Europe, but especially in Germany. It was really bad, and the Low Countries and Scotland for some reason.
Yeah. So another German story of a real werewolf comes from nearly a century later in a town of 1685. So your answer would be, for the previous question,
there you go,
around 1580s. In Ansbach, a wolf, possibly a pack of wolves, was terrorizing the town. After the deaths of livestock, several young children were killed. Under such unsettling circumstances, locals turned to the idea that a werewolf must be responsible, and they knew who the culprit must be. Because recently a local magistrate had been hated by the citizens of Ansbach, had died. So the people of Ansbach believed the wolf to be a reincarnation of the magistrate. So the town banded together, formed a large hunt, managed to find a wolf, chase it into a well, trapped the animal, and they killed it. So after they killed it, they took this thing and they cut off its snout to make it look more flat, man-like.
Oh.
And then they dressed it up in men's clothes and they paraded it in wig and the works, and paraded it around Ansbach. So it was just really bizarre. I thought that they would do that, but anyway. So let's move on to Irish werewolves. Now this is a little bit different than your typical European werewolves, and so the typical werewolves from Europe were considered to be cursed, or they practiced black magic, or they wore a sash or a pelt or
an
ointment, something like this so that they could turn into a werewolf and terrorize and eat children and women and whoever they came across. The Irish legends of the werewolves were different. They were considered the guardians of the forest. They would help lost travelers find their way. They would find lost children in the woods. And there's a famous story of Gerald of Wales in his book of Topography Hibernica, or Geography of Ireland, recorded one of the most famous accounts of werewolves of Ossory. Gerald presents the story of an unnamed priest who was traveling from Ulster when he encountered a wolf in the woods. In the priest's astonishment, the wolf begins to talk to him and tells the priest not to be afraid. The priest in turn asks the wolf not to attack him and to explain his story. So there are two of us, a man and woman, natives of Ossory, who through the curse of Saint Natalis, the abbot, are compelled every 7 years to put off our human form and become a wolf and depart the dwellings of man. So basically they were cursed by this Saint Natalis, and so for the town of Ossory there would be two, a man and a woman, that would have to roam the woods as wolves until the end of their time period. Then they would come back and somebody else would take their place. And so he had come to the priest and say, hey, I need some help. My wife has been hurt and she's dying, and I want you to give last rites to my wife. And the priest is like, well, I can't give last rites to an animal. So the wolf takes the priest to his wife and he pulls back the fur to show the human flesh underneath. And this story went all the way to the Vatican, and It's in the library in the Vatican now where the priest wrote in.
I'm sure there's a whole lot more stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff in the Vatican that I would love to get my hands on. But anyway, but he gave communion to the wolf. The wolf leads him safely out of the woods and makes a number of prophecies concerning the future of Ireland and the Norman invaders. The priest is later summoned before the Bishop of Meath, and on Gerald's advice is ordered to travel to meet the Pope and present his story. So I think it's pretty interesting.
And that's what you have on your arm.
It is what I have on my arm, and I'll throw up a picture of the story of Ossory. I have not a werewolf, but a frog in my throat tonight, and I cannot get it out.
Well, good thing it's not a werewolf. Lord, that doesn't sound good.
Okay. Did you know that the original name from Ireland was not Ireland?
Mm-hmm.
That it was Wolfland.
No, that I did not know.
It was Wolfland.
I knew that the Romans called the people of Ireland Scoti,
which
is
means,
where it's just what they called it. They also called it Hibernia, but they called the people Scoti, which is actually where the word Scots come from, because at the time, you had Dalriada, the kingdom that spanned both Northern Ireland and Eastern Scotland. Western Scotland. Yeah. And then the Picts were in the other part of Scotland. But the Romans just called everybody Scoti.
So, anyway, yeah, it was called Wolfland, and wolves were aplenty in that area in Ireland.
I think they went with the snakes.
They did.
When St. Patrick drove the snakes out.
Up until the 16th and 17th century, Ireland was still a densely wooded country, and wolves were plentiful in wild areas. During the 1650s, rich bounties were placed on the hunting and extermination of wolves. The last recorded account of killing of a wolf occurred near Mount Leinster in County Carlow as late as 1786. And
this is also when the British cut down all the fucking trees in Ireland and took them to build their navy, by the way.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it's pretty sad. I mean, they literally exterminated the wolves in Ireland. So there's none there now. The zoos, I'm sure, but
yeah, I wouldn't think there's anything bigger than a badger now.
Right. All right. So let's go across and cross over the
pond.
Yeah, we're gonna cross over the pond. We're gonna cross over the Atlantic and talk about werewolves in North America. So it is the Navajo tribe that is best known for shapeshifter beliefs. These shifters are called skinwalkers, as you mentioned earlier. And the Navajo word for such people is Yiandlushi, which means he goes on all fours. That's what they called him.
That could be taken.
Yeah. According to the Navajo tradition.
Should clarify.
You should see me in Cabo when I've had too much tequila. I go on all fours, huh, babe?
My God. More like on your face. And that's about it.
Go on all fours and go in a wheelchair back up to the room. And according to the Navajo tradition, skinwalkers look physically different from normal people. And the main difference is being their eyes, which are large and glowing, even in daylight. It is thought that if someone looks like a skinwalker in the eyes, they can absorb, or looks a skinwalker in the eyes, they can absorb a person and steal their skin. So it goes without saying that someone should avoid looking anyone suspected of being a skinwalker in the eyes. They were also believed to have no genitals.
Oh, like Ken doll. Furry Ken doll.
A Ken doll that housed at the moon. Okay. And their skin was supposedly rock hard, like a Ken doll. Maybe it was a Ken doll.
That would suck to be rock hard and have no genitals.
Yeah, that would just.
Okay, sorry.
And hairy.
And there we go down the path. we have perverted this to that point. Mm-hmm. Okay. Making it impervious to axes and arrows, their skin. Some versions, that's what they say. In some versions of the tradition, the skinwalker's tongue would be black, proof that their soul was poisoned. It was also believed that becoming a skinwalker was caused by dark forces. A person that becomes one was believed to have done something immoral to attract the darkness, while in an animal form they lost all trace of humanity, and the beast and the animal instincts took over, making them vicious and unpredictable. This was only one version, though, and another is that while in animal form they're actually much more intelligent. They're also able to read minds and could lure people out of their homes and into the woods, imitating the voices and the cries of loved ones. And we hear that a lot of, the skinwalker stories where they talk about, they hear their name, somebody's calling them.
There's different names for, like, we've heard about, like, ghost stories and stuff about different legends and things that I forget what it is.
They say Sasquatch will mimic the laughter or cries of children, can mimic the sound of children. That's why they tell people, don't go check out the child you hear crying in the woods. It's the same as with the red caps and stuff in Ireland. The Fae will imitate the cries of children to draw someone in. That's how you get a changeling.
There was one that we talked about. There's
kids
like
get
some
lost in the wood, they're screwed because you should never listen to it.
Ghost, like I think it's a Mexican folklore or something.
Oh,
about
Llorona?
That's what it is.
That's tequila. We did try the Tears of Llorona, but it's like $100 and something.
That's the one that was recommended to us, but that one's a definite special. But she, lures people by sounding like
she's looking for lost children.
Yeah, or like a loved one or something.
But I've read a lot of and listened to a lot of stories about skinwalkers, and that was one of the things they lure people out by using the voices of their loved ones. Mm-hmm. No, that was the Navajo. The Hopi Indians, in their traditions, where shapeshifting is brought on by a special ceremony known as Yaya. Yaya. The details of the ceremony are extremely secret and well protected, but it is thought that it involves wearing the skin of an animal one wishes to become. So there's a trend here, with this whole wolf pelt and thing. So one of the legend, and this comes from the I believe it's the Fox tribe, if I remember. One legend in particular refers to an early Native American tribe in the area that is now known as Wisconsin. In the United States of America, it was here that the members of a tribe may have been the first to receive the gift of the werewolf. In this legend, there is a spirit god named, and I'm going to, Weezakachek. Native American mythology, Weezakachek, pronounced Weezakachek, was a shapeshifter who lived in the woods. He was a friend to humans whose default physical form was that of a wolf. One day, Weezakachek was roaming the woods in the form of a man when he saw two brothers from the Fox tribe hunting.
Is the Fox tribe, is that, are they at war with the CNN tribe? Is that?
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
is it
that
Fox
was
like
bad.
That
was bad.
I mean, is it FOX? Is that?
It is FOX, yes, the Fox
so it's the
tribe.
animal.
Yeah.
The animal.
So I guess they identify as foxes. But the brothers...
Oh my gosh.
You're going to start a whole new rabbit hole.
What's better than the CNN crack?
Yeah, that would have been very good.
So the Fox tribe, these two boys were out hunting. Kimi and Macha'ayu. Macha'ayu had just caught a deer with their bows and arrows. Weezakachek walked up on the boys and presented himself as a lost and hungry wanderer from a different tribe. Kimi offered the stranger some of the deer meat that they had just caught, and Weezakachek accepted. After a week later, Weezakachek appeared in the same part of the woods again and saw the same boys again hunting. Macha'ayu explained that ever since they caught the deer a week earlier, they hadn't been able to catch anything and they were very hungry. Weezakachek, remembering the boys' previous generosity, told them that he had no meat to share, but he could offer to share his powers with them, and that was the ability to shapeshift. He said the boys didn't believe him, and so he changed into a wolf and changed back. They excitedly agreed. The only condition was that Wizikachek gave Kimi and Ayu was that they could not use the wolf forms to hurt any humans, only to hunt. Months went by and the boys used their wolf forms to catch enough deer for the entire village. One day, Ayu was in an argument with another boy in the village, and in his anger, Ayu transformed into a wolf and killed the boy.
Of course.
Now the village feared the powers of Ayu and Kimi, and they were both cast out of the tribe and forced to live in the woods.
Also, the village knew about it.
Oh yeah, they knew about it. They were cool
didn't
with
just
it.
Pretend like, oh
No. They were cool with it because the boys were feeding the whole village.
And they weren't hurting anybody.
They weren't hurting
I would have
anyone.
kept that to myself and just pretended like I shot him with a bow and arrow.
Wizikachek was furious with the boys. He cast a new spell on Ayu so that from that day forth he could no longer be able to shapeshift at will. Every day he would take on a complete human form, and every night he would transform into a mindless wolf. Kimi, having done no wrong, was allowed to keep his shapeshifting ability. Having been cast out of the fox tribe and knowing that Ayu would be unable to control himself in his wolf form, Kimi left by himself into the wilderness. Ayu is now known as the father of werewolves, being the first one and creating the others. This is where the history of the werewolf begins, but it doesn't really end there. So many years went by. No sign of Ayu or any other aggressive night wolf. So it just kind of stopped right there. Okay. Legends from other tribes told stories of wolves larger than men hunting near their villages. Several tribes reported flocks of animals, including horses, being brutally ravaged in the middle of the night. Stories of these creatures began spreading to more and more tribes across North America, though the wolves were rarely reported by anyone other than native tribes. These stories of the history of the werewolf were thought to be legends for many years, until a string of modern werewolf sightings beginning in 1936 changed everything. And where did these sightings take place?
Around Bray Road, Wisconsin.
In the United States. In a state called Wisconsin.
Yeah.
In a town called Elkhorn. On a road called Bray. So maybe they saw.
Maybe it's Machu Picchu or whatever.
Machu
Picchu is
Ayu. Maybe it was Machu Ayu, but it kind of disappeared. Nobody heard anything about it except for it's always in Native American folklore. You've had skinwalkers and they believe that, or there's beliefs that they can change into different animals, therianthropy. So don't leave me hanging. What do you think?
What about Gévaudan?
I did not bring up Gévaudan, and that's a very good one. Gévaudan, for those who don't know, and I'm going strictly off memory here, was actually predates.
It's in the 1700s.
It predates our 1776, our independence in France, near. God, I can't remember the name of the mountains. There's
Pyrenees.
Was it Pyrenees?
Pyrenees in southern France.
Margeride.
Oh.
Margeride Mountains of South Central
Yeah,
France.
there you go.
Okay, I'm not familiar with those.
Margeride.
There were, in the death certificates, there was, I believe, and I may be wrong in this number, but I'm pretty sure it was 186 people.
You're talking between 1764 and 1767.
1987 study estimated there had been 210 attacks, resulting in 113 deaths.
So what I had read in previous readings was like 186 deaths attributed to.
Yeah, it says 113 deaths and 49 injuries here. 98 of the victims were killed. Estimated there have been 210 attacks resulting. Okay, yeah.
Typically, it was children or women out tending the fields, and they would get attacked by this thing. There were reports of this thing running on its back legs through the swamps. And I mean, when you think about it, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, you're talking in the 1700s. That's really not that long ago. It's only a
That's
couple of years.
250 years ago.
Yeah, it's not that long in the scope of things. And so these people believed that this was a werewolf, or some kind of this horrible wolf. And it was something because there was one time, one story about a girl that this thing came after, and she fought him off with just basically a stick. And there's another one where the wolf ran up on the girl, and her brother or sister was there with her, and this thing literally ran at her and grabbed her neck, snapped her head off her body in a single bite. Just now, you think about a wolf, and a wolf, your
Wolf has one of the highest
your
bite.
timber wolves can bite through a moose femur in 3 bites. I mean, you think about that, man. That's chomp, 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 and you've bit through a moose femur. And mooses are like gigantic; they're huge.
Mooses?
Yeah, moose. Did I say mooses?
You said mooses.
Tequila
I think
said
it's
Is it
tequila.
moose?
Tequila.
It's
said,
not meese. I think it's moose.
Moose
The
eye?
tequila
Moose
said
and
mooses.
moose.
I would say moose, but the tequila said mooses. No, but these things, this thing was killing people left and right.
But apparently, attacks by wolves were a very serious problem during this era.
It was so serious that the king got involved and sent his huntsman to track this thing down.
Not just the thing, but wolves.
Mm-hmm.
Because this one person said, this animal, which seemed to us to be a wolf, but extraordinary and very different by its figure and its proportions of the wolves that we see in this country. This is what we have certified by more than 300 people from all over who came to see him. Is what they were, this area in Gévaudan.
So the whole silver bullet thing about killing a werewolf with a silver bullet comes from Gévaudan. Because I forget the guy's name, but he had a crucifix that was melted down and blessed by a priest, made some silver bullets out of it, and he shot at this charging wolf thing, whatever it was. He shot it with a silver bullet from a musket, and you think, God, what a shot, what a lucky shot. It could have only been a blessed bullet because
Jean Chastel.
Yeah, that's it. Chastel is the one that killed the beast of Gévaudan or so, and they had brought in the military basically to catch this thing because it was so affecting the commerce in the country. People weren't going to work. People were not going to their jobs. And it was textiles were huge there. Mm-hmm. And they wouldn't go out of their house because they were terrified.
I wouldn't either if I thought I was going to get eaten on the way to work.
Werewolf, wolf, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't want to be eaten by a wolf.
Well, I mean, when you're talking about over a period of, 3 years, 64 to 67, isn't that right?
3 years, yeah.
Okay, so a period of 3 years, and what I read, you read 200-something attacks. I read 186. So let's just say 200 attacks-ish.
113 dead, 96 injured.
Over a 3-year period? Man, that's a short amount of time.
98 partially eaten.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. I'm not.
Can you imagine? When you think, I can't even go out and work my fields. I can't go work my crops because I'm afraid that if I go out there, I'm going to be eaten by this wolf.
What do you think it was?
A wolf?
I think it was a rogue, like striped hyena, maybe.
Really?
I don't think it was a lion
Yeah, that was
dressed up like
No. But
a wolf
I forget what that was, but
something.
I know the movie you're talking about. I don't think I ever saw
Brotherhood
that.
of the Wolf.
So here, I think there's a couple of possibilities for what Gévaudan could have been. Since we're talking about
Or direwolf, like just a
well,
relic direwolf.
that's just it. Gévaudan is very close to that mountain range, and I can't remember the name of it, but
Margeride.
Yeah.
Margaret.
Margaret.
No. Margaret.
Margarita.
I don't know.
Margeride.
But it was very close to that mountain range, and there were a lot of caves there. So I believe that it could have been not necessarily a cryptid, but maybe a leftover dire wolf.
Like the last dire wolf.
Yeah, or maybe it was a group of them.
I mean, think about the oryx, right? It's the big cow things that an ancient breed.
Yes.
That didn't die. Like the last one died in the 18th century, right? So it would have been. It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, and especially
possible
considering you
that
got
a dire wolf
this
could-
vast wilderness, mountains. You got caves, so you got food sources. You've got shelter for them. So I think that maybe they found out. One of them figured out that people are easy
prey.
Easy prey.
Well, they would have. I mean, there could have been a genetic memory of that anyway, because direwolves, actual dire, existed
Right.
at the same time as humans.
So-
by the way, direwolf's not a made-up creature from Game of Thrones. It's
No.
an actual animal that used to exist. It's an extinct animal.
So, and this thing was so tall that the first attack I was reading about, the kid was killed as a young boy. He was killed in the field, working in the field. His father found him. Winston is not a dire wolf. Not anywhere near. So the father found him in the field where he had been basically half eaten. The father wraps him up, brings him home, puts him in his house. Later that night, they called it La Bête, or the beast, was standing at the window, looking in the window on its back feet, standing up and looking in the window at this kid that was laying in the living room floor wrapped in, cloth. And the father chased him out of the house. This thing would run into the swamps. Horses couldn't run through there, and it would be running on back legs. He was shot at so many times, nobody ever hit him. And you're talking about sharpshooters are like, okay, I got him, So it's kind of, what is this thing?
If he's more than like 30 yards away with a musket, good luck.
And that's true. That's true. And so I think it could have been that, I think it could have been just people don't realize, when we talk about wolves and we watch movies where wolves are attacking or whatever, and they're using like these Malamutes and Huskies and, these big, brushy looking German Shepherd type
or
dogs.
They use hybrids.
Yeah. And so people think, oh, a wolf. But a wolf at the shoulders is standing that tall.
Not a gray wolf, maybe, yeah.
That tall. Wolves are huge. Their paws are 5 inches across. For anybody that doesn't know, that's about 5 inches across. So that's how big their paws are.
This is 5 inches. This is not 5 inches.
No. You're talking, they're that big. Can you imagine a dog that stands that tall?
Yes, Great Dane.
And this big.
Yeah.
That's aggressive and can bite through you and hunt you down in a pack. And that's just...
Make it run and run and run.
But it's said to be extinct in the last ice age.
Yeah, well, so was the coelacanth until they pulled one out of the ocean. And
yeah.
Anyway, I didn't really bring that up, and I wasn't planning for it tonight, so I don't have a lot of good details on it. We could do a whole
thing on the
episode on just...
I just kind of thought you were going there because you were working through the 17th century. I thought you were going to hit the 18th century in France.
Only because that one is...
Probably an animal.
It's probably an animal
100%
of some sort.
Yeah.
It actually
But it was
killed...
blamed on a werewolf.
Oh, yeah, it was. So
what's your take? Do you really feel like werewolves were a thing or were? I don't know. I guess.
I have mixed feelings because I used to really think that, there's no way that there's a werewolf. But recently I've been reading all this stuff on Dogman.
Dogman, the Texas Dogman thing is Small Town Monsters just has a new film
Yeah,
out,
he was watching it the other day, and I'm
I
like, what are you
watched it
doing?
yet, but
That there's just some really weird stuff there,
scientifically, my brain can totally make sense of a Sasquatch, right? Evolutionarily speaking,
it makes sense.
Makes sense. Dogman
does not make sense.
Does not make sense
at all.
But people are seeing something.
Yeah, I agree. People are seeing something
right here in Texas.
Yeah. So I don't know. I love the lore. I love the legends. I love the stories.
It's the best movies too.
And the movies are great.
I mean, you put it in a tattoo form, so I would hope
that
even if you didn't truly, in your heart of hearts, believe that it existed, that you at least, like you said, believed in the lore. I mean, people have Tinkerbell on them too.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, my nightmares were about werewolves. So it's my thing. So I love the idea. I love the stories. I love the legends and all that.
See, you're going to have to mention Gévaudan anyway, because I was going to ask you where the silver bullet thing comes from.
And that's where it comes from. So it comes from Gévaudan.
This is why you carry around a bunch of silver, just in case. You never know when you got to melt this down and make a bullet.
Though, when I was reading about it, it actually says that the idea... What did it say?
Well, it's interesting because the silver bullet, it's also...
The story about the large caliber bullets homemade with Virgin Mary's metals is a literary intervention by the French writer Henry Perrault. Perrault. P-O-U-R-R-A-T. That actually, this guy was just a local hunter that shot at it. It doesn't say anything about a silver bullet.
Well, in American Werewolf in London and Paris, you just shoot it with regular old bullets. But there is a lore that goes with the silver... The purity of silver being able to kill, because it's used for vampires too.
Right. Well, okay, so
go touching Dracula with
have you read any? I know that you've heard about, but have you read any of the stuff like at the Skinwalker Ranch?
Oh yeah,
and that the werewolf that they had there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when the people that sold it to Bigelow, the people who tried to ranch there. So one of the first things they saw was a giant wolf, and they kept pumping it full of bullets,
and nothing stopped it. It passed through.
This is on like day one at the ranch.
Yeah,
as soon as they brought the cattle in.
Isn't that crazy?
It is.
So I mean, there's just so many stories out there, and they're great stories. So, and that's why
we could do a whole 2 episodes on Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh yeah,
It's crazy.
Well, I think we should do at some point. We should do a story on Gévaudan because there's so much to that, And the problem is, it's not.
I have seen an interesting doc where they make a case for a striped hyena.
Oh really?
Yeah, and it's a pretty good case.
I could see that. The problem is
because they did used to range in that area,
So. The problem with hyenas is that this thing would climb up on hedgerows in between fields.
Mm.
And so hyenas don't climb, for one.
They don't have to. They get necks so high up. Just look over.
Yeah, but I mean, this thing, it would lay on top of the hedgerows. It would lay there until somebody went by, and then it would pounce. Like a cat almost.
Like a cat?
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
Yeah.
That's a nope cat.
Yeah. It's strange.
Which that's interesting, that the whole cat thing. So it's making panther-like behavior, or...
Yeah, it's like an amalgamation of things,
Could it be a Eurasian lion? I mean, they used to, a relic Eurasian lion. People wouldn't be used to seeing that, even though lions used to range off. There used to be lions in Britain, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, but you know the difference between looking at a cat and a wolf. There's an obvious difference.
Yeah.
So they could have been confused.
Not in
300 something
dark.
People. We think about the people that were attacked and the people that were. No, this was during the day.
Oh, okay.
Nearly all of the attacks for Gévaudan were during the day. I think there were a few at night.
Oh, okay.
Nearly all of them were during the day. And that's another thing. It's that brazen, it wasn't just like a wolf where it would hunt in a pack at night. It was out in the daylight doing this. Anyway, we could go on all night about that. But let's talk about what we had to drink tonight. What was this?
So, I'm sorry. What was so you believe in the lore? You don't really believe that they actually existed?
I think the whole Dogman thing now is making him reconsider.
The Dogman is interesting.
It's making me think about it too.
The Dogman thing is interesting, and I'm going to have to dig deeper into it.
We'll have to do a Dogman though. I mean, kind of already did.
Yeah,
Bray Road is definitely falls in the Dogman.
Absolutely
sighting. But.
So, do you think that back in the day, these were actually werewolves that, like a story of Ossuary, that they could really get bitten and then turn into a wolf.
Not at all.
We've
we've
just
talked about
lore.
that before. I do not believe that at all.
Yeah.
I don't believe that happens.
But there's something to go back to these very ancient stories.
Chimera, maybe the aliens came down and mixed genetic DNA
Well, that's
with.
true. That's how they created us. They took
Well, we think that.
We'll go down the whole stitching.
We think that. So what did we drink tonight?
Mijenta.
Mijenta. Did we like it?
It was delicious.
I thought it was amazing.
It was
That shit
so
is dope.
smooth.
That's good. That is really good.
That is a great sipping tequila.
All right.
I mean, I think it really does take over for Don Julio
It
Blanco.
would also make a
for
great
Blanco.
if you're into margaritas and stuff. I think
That would be
make
a good one.
So let me leave everybody with this.
Especially for the additive free and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
It's good for you. That tequila is good for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it is. In responsible quantities.
Yeah.
Yeah, responsible quantities.
Yes.
Non-GMO.
So
It's vegan too.
even a man who is pure of heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. Night, guys.
Nighty night. Buenas noches.
Oh, I can peel these hip bones above my ear.
It's kind of like when you wear shorts and you get
Out of my
and you stick to the
And
chairs.
your balls stick to your legs.
Well, see, no, I don't know about that. Nope. I do not identify that way. But
And your hair is all jacked. You got headphones.
no, because I don't normally wear shorts and I have them recently. It's like I go to stand up and it's like, yee.